The day Evelyn left with our daughter Claire was the day I lost everything. My family, the people who had once sworn to stand by me, turned their backs convinced by my wife's whispered poison. She painted me as a monster, a danger to my own child, a man unworthy of love or trust. It was a lie so intricately spun, so masterfully woven into the fabric of our lives that even I began to doubt my own truth. Years passed. My attempts to reach Claire were met with cold indifference or outright rejection. My own mother, my brother, my closest friends, every bridge I had built had been burned with a single match lit by Evelyn's deceit. Then, one evening, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name scrawled in an unfamiliar hand. Inside, a single line: "Meet me at the old cafe on Birch Street, 7 p.m. Hope was a cruel thing. It had broken me before. And yet, I went. The cafe was almost empty, save for a hooded figure sitting in the corner. When I stepped closer, she lifted her head, and my breath hitched. Claire. She was no longer the little girl I had kissed goodnight years ago. She was a young woman now, her eyes wary, her hands clenched into fists on the table. "Why did you leave?" she asked, her voice thick with unshed tears. My heart clenched. "I never left. I was taken from you." She studied me, doubt warring with curiosity. "Mom told me you didn't want us, that you were dangerous." I swallowed the anger that threatened to rise. "Claire, have I ever hurt you? Have I ever been anything? But your father—" She hesitated. The spell was breaking, the years of lies unraveling at the edges. Then why did they all believe her? I sighed. Because she made sure they had no reason not to. "But why are you here, Claire? What changed?" She reached into her bag and pulled out a stack of letters. Old, crumpled, sealed, but never opened. Letters I had written. Letters I had sent. "I found these," she whispered, "hidden in Mom's drawer." She lied. About everything. A shudder ran through her, and in that moment I saw my daughter, my real daughter, emerging from the shadows of manipulation and doubt. "I need to know the truth," she said, looking at me as though for the first time. And so I told her how Evelyn had twisted my every word, how she had ensured my family only ever heard her side. I told her how I had fought in silence, how I had tried and failed to reach her. And then, I asked the one question that truly mattered. "Do you believe me?" She exhaled slowly. Then, she nodded. The night ended with an embrace that had been stolen from us for too long. But it was not the end of the story, only the beginning, because now we had something Evelyn had stolen from us both. The truth. And with that truth, we would reclaim everything. As Claire and I sat in the dimly lit cafe, a heavy silence stretched between us. She traced the rim of her coffee cup, lost in thought. "She told me you were a drunk," Claire murmured, almost to herself, "that you were violent." I flinched. The weight of those lies had nearly broken me, but hearing them from her lips felt like a fresh wound. "I've never touched a drink in my life," I said softly. "And I never laid a hand on your mother, or anyone." Claire nodded, as if she'd already begun piecing the truth together before this meeting. She had everyone convinced, even Grandma, Uncle, Daniel. "They all thought you were—" She trailed off, shaking her head. "Claire," I said gently, "why did you decide to meet me now?" She hesitated, then reached into her bag, pulling out a small flash drive. She slid it across the table. "Because I found this." I picked it up, turning it over in my fingers. "What is it?" "Mom's secrets." My heart pounded. "What do you mean?" Claire swallowed hard. "She wasn't just lying about you. She was lying about everything." She hesitated. "I think she set you up." A chill ran down my spine. Set me up how? She looked me dead in the eyes. I think she wanted you gone. Permanently. I exhaled slowly, my mind racing. Claire, what's on this drive? She leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. Emails, bank records, messages she sent to some guy before she left you. Conversations about how to frame you, how to manipulate the courts. Claire's eyes darkened. And something else, money transfers, large ones, to someone I don't recognize. The cafe around us seemed to fade. For years I had thought Evelyn's betrayal was personal. Now I realized it might be something much bigger. Claire's voice was almost pleading. Dad, what if she didn't just want to take me away from you? What if she was hiding something worse? I clenched the flash drive in my fist, a slow fire burning in my chest. Then we're going to find out the truth. Together. The hunt for answers had just begun, and I had a feeling we weren't going to like what we found. Claire and I left the cafe in silence, but my mind was racing. The weight of the flash drive in my pocket felt like a loaded gun, dangerous, powerful, and potentially life-changing. Where did you get this? I asked as we stepped out into the cold night air. Claire hesitated. Mom's office. She keeps a safe hidden in her closet. I figured out the combination months ago. She glanced at me, her expression uncertain. I don't know why I did it. I guess something always felt off. But when I found those letters you sent, I knew I had to dig deeper. I nodded, pride swelling in my chest. My daughter had the same instincts I did. The truth had been whispering to her all along. Did she see you take it? Claire shook her head. No. But she's been acting weird lately, jumpy, distracted, like she knows something is about to catch up with her. I exhaled sharply. Then we don't have much time. We drove to my apartment, a far cry from the home I once shared with Evelyn. The place was small but comfortable, filled with books and the remnants of a life I'd been forced to rebuild from the ground up. Claire sat beside me on the couch as I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. A series of folders popped up, labeled in cryptic shorthand. L1, X accounts, Trans 2021, Burke. Who's Burke? Claire asked. I clicked the folder. Dozens of emails flooded the screen. Conversations between Evelyn and someone named Richard. Burke. The subject lines alone made my pulse quicken. The account is ready. Payment confirmed. He won't be a problem much longer. I clicked on the last one. My hands trembled as I read. Evelyn. He still thinks I'll come back. He's pathetic. Burke. Good. The more desperate he is, the less he'll see coming. Evelyn. I need this done before the hearing. I don't want to leave anything to chance. Burke. Consider it handled. I leaned back, my breath shallow. My own wife had orchestrated my downfall. And Burke, whoever he was, he had helped her. Claire was shaking. She really did this. She planned everything. I clenched my jaw. And now we know. But that's not enough. I clicked another folder labeled Trans 2021. Inside, bank statements showed massive sums moving between accounts, funneled through offshore banks. One name stood out, Burke Holdings. She's been paying him, Claire whispered. But for what? I scrolled further until I found a document titled Final Arrangement. My stomach turned to ice as I opened it. It was a contract. Burke had been hired to make me disappear. A hit. Claire covered her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. Dad! I shut the laptop, my pulse thundering in my ears. This isn't just about custody anymore, Claire. Your mother didn't just want me gone from your life. I turned to her, my voice steel. She wanted me dead. The truth was out. But what we did with it, that would change everything. Claire's face was pale, her breathing uneven. I could see the battle raging inside her, the mother she had trusted versus the evidence sitting right in front of her. We have to go to the police, she whispered. I wanted to agree. I should have. Agreed, but something didn't sit right. If we walk into a police station with this, what do you think happens next? I asked. She's smart, Claire. She has money, influence. If she sees this coming, she'll bury it before they even open a case. Or worse, she'll come after you for taking this. Claire swallowed hard. Then what do we do? I opened the laptop, again staring at the emails. Burke Holdings. That was the key. We find Burke, I said. Claire's eyes widened. You want to go after him? Dad, this guy was hired to... She broke off, realization dawning. You think he'll talk? I nodded. Men like Burke don't do things for loyalty. They do them for money. And if your mother was paying him to get rid of me, then she had something to lose, which means he knows what it is. I pulled out my phone and started searching. It didn't take long. Burke Holdings was a shell corporation. No real address, no public listings. But Richard Burke himself? That was different. His name appeared. In a few old articles, an ex-private investigator turned security consultant. But the last mention of him was a lawsuit. Someone had accused him of fraud, and he had disappeared right after, gone underground. Dad, Claire said cautiously, how do we even find a guy like this? I clenched my jaw. I know someone who can. 2 hours later, we were sitting in a rundown bar on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where people asked no questions and gave even fewer answers. A man slid into the seat across from us, his gaze sharp, predatory. Didn't think I'd ever see you again, James, he said, smirking. I ignored the old resentment that bubbled up. I need to find someone, Victor. Victor was a fixer, someone who knew how to dig up things that weren't meant to be found. Once, long ago, he had been my best friend. Now he was just another ghost from my past. Victor leaned back, watching me. This about Evelyn? I didn't flinch. It's about Burke. That got his attention. He let out a low whistle. Burke? Richard Burke? He shook his head. Bad news, man. He vanished years ago. You're telling me you can't find him? Victor grinned. I didn't say that. He tapped his fingers on the table. Finding him? That's easy. Getting you in front of him alive. That's the hard part. Claire tensed beside me. We don't have a choice, I said. Victor sighed, then pulled out his phone. All right, James, but you owe me for this one. I already knew. No favor in Victor's world came without a cost. As he made the call, I met Claire's eyes. She was afraid, so was I. But this was the only way. We had found the truth. Now we had to survive it. Victor ended the call and leaned in, his expression suddenly serious. Burke's still around, he said. But he's careful. Runs everything out of a private club downtown. The Orchid Room. Expensive, exclusive, and crawling with the kind of people you don't want knowing your name. Claire shifted uncomfortably. So how do we get in? Victor smirked. Simple. You don't. He turned to me. But I can. I exhaled sharply. Trusting Victor was like walking into a minefield blindfolded, but right now, he was our only way in. I want to be there, I said. Victor chuckled. Yeah, I figured. Fine. But if Burke smells trouble, he'll disappear again. And you? You won't walk out. I nodded. When do we go? Victor drained the last of his drink and stood. Tonight. The Orchid Room was a world apart from the dingy bar we'd come from. Dark wood paneling, soft jazz playing over the hum of quiet conversations, and men in suits sipping whiskey worth more than my rent. This wasn't just a club. It was a meeting ground for politicians, criminals, and the kind of people who had long since stopped fearing the law. Victor led me past the bar and into a back room. A security guard gave him a nod, barely sparing me a glance. Burke's inside, Victor murmured. You get 5 minutes, make them count. I stepped through the door. Richard Burke was exactly what I expected, calm, confident, and utterly unreadable. His graying hair was slicked back, his tailored suit unwrinkled. He barely looked up as I entered, swirling the drink in his hand. "James," he said smoothly. "It's been a long time." My hands clenched into fists. "Not long enough," he smirked. "I assume this isn't a social call?" I sat across from him, my heartbeat steady despite the storm raging inside me. "I know what you did," Burke chuckled, shaking his head. "You're going to have to be more specific." I leaned forward. "The emails, the money transfers, Evelyn hiring you to get rid of me." Burke's smirk faltered, just for a second. But I saw it. "You should walk away, James," he said. "You have no idea what you're stepping into." I ignored him. "You helped her destroy my life. Now you're going to help me fix it." Burke sighed, setting down his glass. "And why would I do that?" I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. The screen displayed a bank statement, a recent transaction. $200,000 wired to Burke Holdings. His eyes flicked up to mine. "Where did you get this?" "Doesn't matter," I said. "What matters is that Evelyn just paid you again. But not for me." I let the words sink in. "She's paying you to clean up something else, isn't she?" Burke's face darkened. For the first time, he looked uneasy. "You don't want to know, James." I held his gaze. "I need to know." Burke exhaled slowly, then picked up his drink and took a long sip. When he set it down, he looked almost tired. "Evelyn's been laundering money for years," he said finally. "Offshore accounts, shell companies, but she got greedy. Made a mistake." He hesitated. "And now, someone wants her gone. Claire's." Words from earlier echoed in my mind. "She's been acting weird lately, like she knows something is about to catch up with her." "Who?" I asked. Burke gave me a long, measuring look. Then he said a name that made my blood run cold. "Victor." The world tilted. My head snapped toward the door, where Victor had been standing just minutes ago. The door was open, but he was gone. Burke sighed. "I told you, James. You have no idea what you're stepping into." Then the lights flickered. The sound of a gunshot rang through the club, and chaos erupted. The gunshot sent a ripple of panic through the orchid room. Glasses shattered, chairs scraped against the floor, and murmurs turned into shouts. Burke and I both ducked instinctively, our eyes snapping toward the doorway. Another shot rang out. This time, closer. Burke swore under his breath. "I told you, walking into this was a mistake." I didn't respond. My mind was already calculating. Victor had disappeared. Now, someone was shooting. That wasn't a coincidence. "Stay here," I muttered, shoving my chair back. Burke let out a dry laugh. "Oh, sure. I'll just enjoy my drink while bullets are flying." I didn't have time for his sarcasm. Pushing through the panicked crowd, I reached the entrance of the club just as another shot rang out. This one hit close, wood splintered beside my head. I barely had time to register that someone was aiming for me. Instinct took over. I ducked, low and moved fast, scanning for the shooter. Then I saw him, a man in a gray suit, positioned near the bar, gun in hand. He wasn't some panicked club-goer waving a weapon around. His stance was firm, his expression calm. A professional. His eyes locked onto mine, and for the briefest moment, I saw something flicker across his face. Recognition. Then he turned and bolted. I chased after him, pushing through the chaos. The club's security was nowhere to be seen, either paid to look the other way or smart enough to stay out of this. The shooter shoved past a waiter, knocking over a tray of expensive whiskey, and sprinted toward the back exit. I followed. The moment I burst through the back door into a narrow alleyway, I caught sight of him rounding the corner. Footsteps pounded against wet pavement. I pushed myself harder, ignoring the burn in my legs. Then, just as I turned the corner, a hand grabbed my collar, yanking me sideways. I barely had time to react before I was slammed against the brick wall of a nearby building. The air rushed from my lungs. "Easy, James," a familiar voice murmured. "Victor." I shoved him off. "You set me up." Victor didn't deny it. He adjusted his jacket, glancing toward the end of the alley where the shooter had disappeared. "That depends on your definition of setup." I clenched my fists. "You knew about Burke, about Evelyn, about the hit on me." Victor shrugged. "Not everything, but I knew enough. I had to know how deep you'd dig before they made their move." "They?" Victor exhaled. "Evelyn's in trouble, James. More than you realize. She wasn't just laundering money. She was working with people way above Burke's pay grade. Dangerous people." I shook my head, trying to process. "Then why would she hire Burke to get rid of me?" Victor's eyes darkened. "Because she thought you knew something." The pieces snapped into place, forming a picture I really didn't like. Evelyn had destroyed my life, taken my daughter, and turned my own family against me. Because she believed I had something on her. Something big enough to get her killed. Victor took a step closer. "And now, James, you actually do." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. Claire's name flashed on the screen. I answered. "Claire." "Dad." Her voice came in a shaky whisper. "She knows." My blood ran cold. "What?" "Mom. She knows I took the drive." A pause. Then, "She's here." The line went dead. My pulse slammed against my ribs. "Where are you?" I tried calling Claire back, but it went straight to voicemail. Victor must have read my expression because he grabbed my shoulder. "James, focus!" I shoved him off. "She's with Evelyn." Victor swore under his breath. "We need to move, now." I didn't need him to tell me twice. I sprinted back toward my car, Victor close behind. "Where would she take her?" I asked, throwing the car into drive. Victor thought for a second. "Someplace quiet, safe. Evelyn isn't stupid. She's not going to hurt Claire. She just wants control back." I wasn't so sure. Evelyn had spent years crafting a perfect narrative, one where I was the villain and she was the victim. Claire uncovering the truth wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a threat, and Evelyn had proven she was willing to do whatever it took to protect herself. "Her house?" I asked, gripping the wheel. Victor shook his head. "Too obvious. She knows we'd look there first." He paused. Then his expression shifted. "Wait. The lake house." I swore. Of course. The lake house was an old vacation home Evelyn's family had owned for decades. Isolated, no close neighbors, and no cell service. She was taking Claire off the grid. I floored the gas. The drive felt endless. Every minute that passed tightened the knot in my stomach. I couldn't let Evelyn twist Claire's mind again. I had barely gotten her back. I wasn't about to lose her. The sky had turned a deep shade of navy by the time the lake house came into view. The place was dark, save for a single light glowing from the front porch. Evelyn's car was parked outside. Victor reached for his gun. I grabbed his wrist. "No guns." Victor raised an eyebrow. "You think she's going to just hand Claire over?" "I'm not giving her an excuse to make me the bad guy again." Victor hesitated, then tucked the gun back into his holster. "Fine. But if she pulls something, I'm not waiting for a second opinion." I didn't argue. We approached the house cautiously, my ears strained for any sound inside. Then, voices. Claire. And Evelyn. I pushed the door open. Claire sat on the couch, her arms wrapped around herself. Evelyn stood nearby, her expression unreadable. But when she saw me, her face twisted into something cold and sharp. "You just don't know when to quit, do you?" she said. Claire's eyes flickered to me. Relief, fear, confusion. I took a slow step forward. "Let her go, Evelyn," Evelyn scoffed. "Oh, don't be dramatic. She's my daughter." Claire's jaw tightened. "I'm not a pawn, Mom." Evelyn's fingers curled into fists. You don't understand. She pointed at me, is dangerous. Everything I did to protect you. Claire stood. No, you did it to protect yourself. Evelyn's face twisted, but before she could respond, Victor stepped forward. Enough of this. His voice was flat. We have the emails, the bank statements, everything. He smiled thinly. It's over, Evelyn. For the first time, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear. She exhaled sharply, shaking her head. You're making a mistake. I held her gaze. No, you did. Silence stretched. Then in a chillingly calm voice, Evelyn said, You don't have proof. Claire's lips parted. Mom! You have nothing, Evelyn continued. Emails, bank statements, easily explained. You think the police will take your word over mine? She was doubling down. Even now. Victor gave me a look. I knew what he was thinking. This isn't enough. Evelyn had spent years covering her tracks. If we walked away with just this, she'd find a way to slither out. We needed something bigger, something undeniable. And then, as if the universe itself intervened, Evelyn's phone rang. She glanced at it. Her expression barely changed, but I saw the hesitation in her eyes. I lunged. She tried to yank the phone away, but I grabbed her wrist, twisting just enough to make her let go. James! She shrieked, but I had already hit the answer button. A deep, unfamiliar voice filled the room. Is it done? Silence. Victor's eyes widened. Claire's breath hitched. Evelyn went pale. The voice continued, impatient. Evelyn, I paid you. I covered for you. But if he's still breathing, then we have a problem. My blood turned to ice. They weren't just talking about me. They were talking about Burke. Evelyn's entire world was unraveling. I put the phone on speaker and held it up. Who is this? A long pause. Then, in a deadly whisper, You shouldn't have done that. The line went dead. Evelyn's breathing was ragged. She looked at me with something I had never seen before, pure, unfiltered panic. Claire took a step back. Mom, what did you do? Evelyn didn't answer, because she knew the real danger wasn't me, it was coming for her. Evelyn stood frozen, her breath coming in short, uneven gasps. I had seen her wear 1,000 masks, calm, calculating, cruel, but never like this. Never afraid. I stepped forward. Who was that? She didn't answer. Claire turned to her, voice unsteady. Mom, what did you do? Evelyn swallowed hard, finally tearing her gaze from me. Claire, sweetheart, you don't understand. Then explain it to me. Claire's voice cracked. Tell me why someone just threatened to kill you. Evelyn hesitated. Then she turned, grabbed her purse, and made for the door. Victor blocked her path. Not happening. Evelyn's eyes darted between us, wild and desperate. You don't get it. You've ruined everything. If I don't fix this, we're all dead. Victor smirked. You should have thought about that before trying to bury James. Evelyn exhaled sharply like she was about to scream, but then her face changed. She went eerily calm. She turned to Claire. Sweetheart, she said softly, you trust me, don't you? Claire flinched like she'd been slapped. I trusted you, but you lied to me. About everything. Evelyn's expression wavered, but she pressed on. I know you're angry, but this is bigger than you understand. If you come with me, I can fix this. I can protect us. Claire's hands curled into fists. Like you protected Dad? Evelyn's lips parted, but no words came. That was it. The moment she realized Claire was no longer hers to manipulate. I took a step closer. You're not getting out of this, Evelyn. You need to start talking. Now. Evelyn glanced at the phone still in my hand. Her whole body was tight with panic. But then, something flickered across her face. Acceptance. Fine, she said. You want the truth? She let out a bitter laugh. All right, I did set you up, James. I needed you out of the way. But it wasn't just me. Victor and I exchanged a look. I nodded. Keep talking. Evelyn exhaled. There were people, powerful people. They needed a way to move money, a safe way. I made that happen. Her fingers tightened around her purse strap. But someone inside the operation got greedy. They stole. And the people we worked for, they wanted a name. They wanted someone to take the fall. She looked me dead in the eyes. And that someone was you. The room tilted. You framed me to save yourself, I said slowly, my voice hollow. Evelyn didn't deny it. I shook my head, swallowing back the rage bubbling in my chest. You could have divorced me, left me, but instead you made sure my own family turned against me. You let them believe I was a monster. She lifted her chin as if trying to regain control. It worked, didn't it? Claire sucked in a sharp breath. Mom, Evelyn turned to her, desperate. They were going to kill you. Her voice cracked. All of you. I had no choice, Victor scoffed. There's always a choice. Evelyn's breathing was uneven. I thought I was safe, she whispered, until Burke started talking, until that call you just answered. Her eyes darkened. Now you see what you've done? Now they know I can't control you. A chill crept down my spine. That voice on the phone, it hadn't just been a warning. It had been a promise. I turned to Victor. We need to go. Victor nodded. Yeah, now. I grabbed Claire's hand. Come on. But before we could move, Evelyn grabbed my wrist. James, she said, her voice shaking, they're coming. For all of us. For a split second, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Genuine fear. I pried her hand off. Then you better hope you chose the right side. And with that, we ran. Out of the house. Into the night. Not just from Evelyn, but from whatever was coming next. The night swallowed us as we ran from the lake house. The air was thick with the weight of what Evelyn had just admitted, what she had done to me, to Claire, to all of us. But we didn't have time to process it, because whoever was on the other end of that phone call, they were coming. Victor yanked open the car door. Drive, now! Claire and I barely had time to scramble inside before he slammed the passenger door shut. I floored the gas, gravel spitting behind us as we tore away from the house. Claire was shaking. Dad, what do we do? I couldn't lie to her. We run, we hide, and we figure out who the hell is after us. Victor pulled out his phone and started, typing furiously. I can get us off the grid for a while. Safe house, burner phones, whatever we need. I gritted my teeth. No, I'm done running. Victor gave me a sharp look. You got a better plan? I did. I just didn't like it. I exhaled. Burke, Claire frowned. You think he'll help us? No, I said. But I think he'll help himself, and right now that's enough. Victor cursed under his breath. You really want to go back to him after what just happened? I clenched the wheel. Burke knows who Evelyn was working with, and if they want her dead, it means there's more going on. Then we realize. I glanced at Victor. You said it yourself. Evelyn wasn't just laundering money. She was working with dangerous people. Burke will know why. Victor hesitated. Then he nodded. All right, but if this goes sideways, I'm not pulling punches. Neither was I. We found Burke nursing a glass of whiskey in a dingy motel room. He didn't even look surprised when we walked in, just sighed and took another sip. You got a death wish, James? I shut the door behind us. Nice to see you too. Burke set his glass down. If you're here, that means Evelyn cracked, which means you're in deep shit. Victor crossed his arms. We noticed. Burke studied us for a moment, then exhaled. You don't get it, do you? This isn't just about money. This is about power. Evelyn was useful to them, for a while. But she got sloppy. And when you stop being useful to people like that... He made a slicing motion across his throat. Claire swallowed hard. So what happens now? Burke rubbed his temples. They clean up their mess. I stepped closer. Who are they? Burke hesitated. Then, a syndicate, high level, government ties, offshore accounts, the kind of people who don't leave paper trails. He met my eyes. You were just a convenient scapegoat, James. But now you're a loose end. The words settled like lead in my gut. Victor scoffed. Great. So we're all targets. Burke smirked, but there was no humor in it. Welcome to the club. I ignored him. How do we stop this? Burke leaned back. You don't. I grabbed the whiskey glass and slammed it against the table. Try again. Burke sighed. The only way out is leverage, something big enough to make them back off. Claire straightened. The drive. Burke frowned. What drive? Claire pulled the USB from her pocket. Mom had this hidden. I don't know everything on it, but it's important. Burke took it, examining it closely. Then, for the first time since we arrived, his expression changed. His hands tightened around the drive. Where did you get this? Claire hesitated. Where? Claire? His voice was sharp, urgent. She swallowed. Mom's study, in a safe behind the bookshelf. Burke let out a slow breath. You have no idea what you just stole. Victor leaned in. Enlighten us. Burke glanced at me. You were right. Evelyn wasn't just laundering money. He tapped the drive against the table. She was blackmailing them. Silence. Burke, let the words sink in, then continued. She kept records, names, transactions, deals. She wasn't just working for them, she was holding them hostage. He shook his head. No wonder they want her dead. Claire's face paled. Then we have leverage, Burke chuckled dryly. Leverage? Kid, this is war. Victor cursed. So what do we do? Burke exhaled. You have two choices. Run and hope they never find you. He set the drive down. Or burn them before they burn you. I picked up the drive, turning it over in my hands. Claire looked at me, eyes wide. Dad? I met her gaze, and I made my decision. We end this. Burke studied me for a long moment, then smirked. Didn't think you had it in you, James. I ignored him. My grip on the USB tightened. How do we use this? Burke sighed, rubbing his temples. There's only one way to play this game and come. Out breathing, you don't go for one of them. You go for all of them, at once, publicly. You make sure there's no way to silence you without setting the whole damn house on fire. Victor nodded. A dead man's switch. Claire frowned. What's that? I answered before Burke could. It's an insurance policy. We release part of the information, just enough to scare them, then make it clear that if anything happens to us, the rest goes everywhere. Burke took a sip of his whiskey. Sounds great in theory. Problem is, you can't half-ass this. You need the right eyes on it. Press, law enforcement, watchdog groups, people too high-profile to be bought off or silenced. He snorted. If they even exist anymore. I exhaled, thinking. I know someone. Victor arched an eyebrow. Oh, an old friend, investigative journalist. She's been hunting a big corruption case for years. She just didn't know the names. I held up the drive. Now we have the names. Burke shrugged. Better move fast. The second Evelyn realizes you have this, she'll run straight to them. Claire shifted uncomfortably. You think she'd still sell us out? Burke chuckled darkly. Kid, your mom's got one instinct, survival. And right now, the only way she survives is if you don't. A cold silence settled over the room. Then Victor grabbed his jacket. "We can sit here and debate, or we can make a move." I nodded. "Let's move." We drove into the city under a thick, moonless sky. My contact, Mara Sullivan, worked out of a small independent media outlet that thrived on exposing high-profile corruption. She had broken a few stories before, but nothing like this. This was career-defining or life-ending. Victor parked a few blocks away. We go in together. Less risk. Burke leaned back. "I'll wait here. If this goes sideways, someone needs to be able to pull you out." I nodded. Then Claire, Victor, and I stepped into the building. Mara's office was a cramped, cluttered space buried in the back of the newsroom. She looked up as we entered, blinking in surprise. "James?" She stood. "I haven't seen you in—" Her gaze flicked to Claire, then Victor. "What's going on?" I set the USB down on her desk. "I need you to listen carefully. What's on this drive? It's going to get people killed." Her expression sobered instantly. She sat down, plugging the drive into her computer. Victor stood by the door, arms crossed. Claire hovered behind me, anxious. Seconds later, Mara's face paled. "Jesus Christ." She scrolled through file after file, her hands shaking. This is huge." She looked up at me. "This connects politicians, federal judges, CEOs. You realize what you have here?" "Yeah," I said. "A death sentence." Mara exhaled sharply. "We need to be careful. If I run this story without protection, we're all dead before it hits print." Victor tapped the desk. "That's why we don't just give it to you. We give it to, everyone." Mara frowned. "What do you mean?" I took a breath. "We send it anonymously to every major outlet. New York Times, Washington Post, BBC, hell, even WikiLeaks. By the time they realize it's out, it's too late to stop." Mara hesitated, then nodded slowly. "All right, but we need to move fast." She started copying files, setting up secure uploads. But just as she did, Claire gasped. "Dad." I turned. Through the window, across the street. A black SUV parked, engine running, watching us. Victor cursed. "We've been made!" Mara looked up sharply. "What?" "Get the files out now," I ordered. Mara's hands flew over the keyboard. "Almost there." Headlights flashed. The SUV's doors opened. Men in suits stepped out, guns in hand. Victor drew his weapon. "We need to go." Mara yanked the USB from the computer. "It's uploading, but it'll take a few minutes." Claire grabbed my arm, fear in her eyes. "Dad." The front door slammed open. Heavy boots. Voices barking orders. I grabbed Mara's wrist. "Leave it, we're gone." And then the first gunshot rang out. The sharp crack of the gunshot shattered the tension like glass. It rang through the room, and for a split second, everything froze. I shoved Claire behind me, instinctively pulling Mara to the side. "Move!" I hissed. Victor was already at the door, his weapon drawn, eyes scanning the hallway. "They're coming in through the back. We need to move now." Mara, pale as a ghost, clutched the USB in her trembling hand. I can't just leave the files uploading." "They're already compromised," Victor snapped. "We don't have time. This is the only way we get out alive." Mara's breath hitched. "You're right." The door splintered behind us. Footsteps echoed through the office. "Go!" I shouted. We bolted for the back exit, the narrow hallway leading us toward a fire escape. Victor was at the front, gun steady, in his grip. He shot twice, the sound muffled by the walls, but I heard the grunt of one of the attackers falling. We burst through the back door into the alley, and the night air hit us like a cold slap. The SUV was still there, but now 2 more cars were pulling up. We were surrounded. "How do we get out of this?" Mara gasped. Victor's eyes darted around. "We don't! We fight!" He motioned for me and Claire to follow him, but before we could take more than a few steps, The men in suits had emerged from the alley, weapons raised. Their leader, a man I didn't recognize, grinned coldly at us. "You really thought you could run with that information?" he sneered. "You think we don't have people everywhere?" I reached into my jacket and pulled out the second burner phone. I'd been hiding. "I'm not the one running," I said, my voice low. The man raised an eyebrow. "What's this? You think a little phone is going to save you?" I smiled grimly. "No, but this is." I hit the button. The phone flashed once, twice, and then nothing. The man's face twisted in confusion, and then the unmistakable sound of police sirens blared in the distance. The leader's smile faltered, his eyes darting to his men. "What the hell?" Just as he moved to yell orders, a voice rang out from behind us. "Freeze! Drop your weapons!" A group of officers emerged from around the corner, their guns drawn, led by none other than Mara's contact, Detective Harper. She'd been in the shadows, waiting. The men in suits hesitated for only a moment before the air was filled with the sound of gunfire. But Harper's team was faster. Two of the attackers went down before they could even pull their triggers. The leader stumbled back, trying to regroup, but Victor was already moving, charging forward and taking him to the ground in a single swift motion. His gun clattered to the pavement. I took a deep breath, feeling my heart pounding in my chest. The immediate threat was over, but I knew this wasn't finished. Mara looked at me, wide-eyed. "You set this up." I nodded. "Had to. We couldn't outrun them, but I knew if we could get the right people on our side, it'd buy us some time." Harper stepped forward, her gun still raised. "You've got a lot of explaining to do." Victor wiped sweat from his brow. "You're not wrong." The leader of the attackers was on his knees now, his hands cuffed behind his back. "You don't know who you're dealing with," he spat. "This won't stop them." Harper gave him a sharp kick to the side. "I think you'll find out just how much we know." She looked at me. "You did the right thing, but you're playing a dangerous game." I didn't answer. Instead, I turned to Claire, her wide eyes filled with more questions than I had answers. "Are we safe now?" she asked quietly. I didn't know. Not really, but in that moment, I realized something. I hadn't just fought for Claire to get the truth. I had fought because I knew the price of silence, and I wasn't going to let anyone, especially Evelyn, control her life like she had mine. I looked back at Mara. "Let's make sure this time the truth stays out there." Mara nodded finally, understanding. She tapped a few commands into her phone, and the drive I had handed her earlier began uploading again. This time, directly to every outlet she could get it to. We were running out of time. But maybe, just maybe, we had bought ourselves enough of a window. And then, as the police started taking the rest of the men away, I turned to Harper. "I need to make sure they don't come after us again." She narrowed her eyes. "That's a tall order, James. But I'll see what I can do." "Do what you have to," I said. "But you keep the pressure on them. If they're planning anything else, I want them to know they can't get away with it." Harper nodded. "I'll put the word out." And with that, the world seemed to shift, just for a moment, into something less dark. But I knew one thing for sure. This was far from over. The storm was only just beginning. As the last of the men were loaded into police vehicles, I felt the weight of what had just happened start to settle in. The sirens were still ringing in the distance, and the chill of the night air wrapped itself around me like a shroud. Victor, his eyes still scanning the perimeter, finally lowered his weapon. "We need to move," he muttered, his voice tight with tension. "This won't be the last of them." Mara, her eyes glued to her phone, was already on her way to her car. The story's out, but the real question is, how long until they come for me? For us? "We'll keep moving," I said, my voice firm. "You've done your part, Mara. We'll get you the protection you need." Harper, now at the front of the group, gestured for us to follow. I've got a safe house we can use for the night, she said, her voice calm but authoritative. You're all coming with me. I need to talk to the higher-ups, but I'll make sure you have what you need to lay low. I glanced at Claire, who had remained silent the whole time, her face pale, 1,000 thoughts playing behind her eyes. The girl I had once thought I knew was now a stranger to me, changed by secrets, betrayals, and the weight of a life I had never wanted for her. Claire, I started softly, but she held up her hand. I'm okay, Dad. I need a second. I nodded, stepping aside. I wasn't sure what words to say. How do you explain to your daughter that everything she thought she knew about her mother, about us, was a lie? How do you undo years of manipulation in a matter of hours? Mara was already slipping into her car, the engine revving. You're going to need to lay low for a while. Don't trust anyone, and don't make a single move without letting me know. I turned to Victor, who was scanning the area, ever vigilant. What now? Victor grinned, though it didn't reach his eyes. Now? Now we make sure nobody's left standing, between us and the truth. Harper led us to an unmarked van parked in the alley. It had no windows, and its exterior was worn down, indistinguishable from the countless others lining the street. But it was a lifeline. Get in, Harper ordered as I slid into the back with Claire. I looked at Mara, who was pulling away from the curb. Keep me updated, I said. Every step. You hear anything else, you let us know. She nodded without saying a word, disappearing into the night. The van's engine roared to life, and as we sped through the darkened streets, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were still being hunted, even as we fought to expose those who'd put us in this mess. It was like we were living in the shadow of something bigger, something that couldn't be outrun. Do you think they'll really leave us alone? Claire asked, her voice small. I didn't want to lie to her, but I needed to reassure her somehow. I don't know, sweetheart, but we'll fight. We'll fight every step of the way. Her eyes met mine, tired but determined. I want to help. I need to know everything, Dad. I can't be kept in the dark anymore. My heart clenched. You will. I promise. The van turned a corner sharply, and Harper's voice broke through the quiet. We'll be there in a few minutes. Stay sharp. I nodded. My thoughts a whirlwind. We were in deeper than I had ever expected. But I wasn't backing down. Not now. Not after everything we'd uncovered. And with Mara on our side, the pieces of this puzzle would start to fall into place. One way or another. The safe house was a small, unassuming building tucked away in a forgotten part of the city. It was barely noticeable, hidden in plain sight. Harper led us inside, motioning for us to be quiet. Inside, the place smelled like old wood and stale air, but it was secure. Harper had already made arrangements with a few trusted officers to ensure no one would get in or out without her knowledge. As the door clicked shut behind us, I felt a fleeting sense of relief, but it didn't last. I sat Claire down at the kitchen table, taking a seat beside her. We need to talk about everything. What's coming? What's already happened? Claire didn't say anything, but her eyes were wide. Victor leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his usual sarcasm replaced with a rare seriousness. And we need to be ready. This isn't over. The syndicate won't rest until they've buried this. Harper walked into the room, her face grave. I'll keep in contact with my team, but you need to stay under the radar, and do not trust anyone, not even me, until we've got this all sorted out. I looked at her, a flicker of doubt creeping in. What do you mean? Harper's gaze hardened. This goes all the way up, James. There are people inside law enforcement, people in power who have too much to lose if this comes out. If they come after you, they're going to use every weapon at their disposal. I could feel the weight of her words settling on my chest, pressing harder with every beat of my heart. The walls were closing in. This is bigger than just Evelyn, she continued. The safe house was a cold, empty place in every sense. The walls were bare, the furniture sparse, and the only real noise came from the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the floorboards as we moved through the rooms. It was the kind of place designed to keep you out of sight, to make sure no one noticed you were there. But that sense of quiet couldn't settle the storm inside me. Even as Claire sat across from me, her eyes wide and full of questions, I knew we were on borrowed time. The syndicate wouldn't let this go. They would come for us, one way or another, and when they did, there would be no hiding. I ran my hand through my hair and looked at Harper. She was leaning against the kitchen counter, her arms crossed. "How long do we have?" I asked her, my voice low. Harper's face was a mask of calm, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of concern. "Not long. Word's already starting to circulate. The people you're dealing with aren't slow. They'll figure out who's behind the leak and come for you, especially if they realize the feds are involved." I clenched my jaw. "So what do we do now?" Harper stepped forward, picking up a file from the table that had been left for us. "Now, we make sure that when they come, they find nothing but smoke." Her voice hardened, a steel edge beneath the calm. "We hit them harder than they expect. We give them no choice but to burn every bridge they have left." I glanced at Claire, who was still processing everything that had happened. Her face was pale, and I could see the questions swimming in her eyes, questions I didn't have answers to. But she had to know now. "Claire," I started, my voice soft. "What you've seen tonight, what you're going to hear in the coming days. There are things about your mom I don't want you to know, things she's done that you can't understand. But you have to understand this. I'm fighting for you. All of this is to protect you." Her eyes widened. "What do you mean? I don't get it, Dad. Why would Mom—" "I know," I cut in gently. "I know. I never wanted this for you, Claire. But this isn't about Evelyn anymore. This is about us and the choices we make moving forward. We have to stick together." She nodded slowly, biting her lip, as if trying to process it all. I could see the fear in her eyes, the same fear I had felt when everything started to unravel, when the truth about Evelyn began to surface. "We'll get through this," I added, more for myself than for her. Somehow. Victor, who had been pacing near the door, finally stopped and turned to face us. His face was drawn, the weight of everything pressing down on him. "The next step is making sure this isn't just about survival. We need to use the syndicate's own game against them. They won't hesitate to destroy us if we keep running. We need to bring the fight to them." Harper nodded. "Victor's right. We've got leverage. The documents on that drive, they're only the beginning. But to really make them pay, we need something they can't ignore, something they can't cover up." I felt a sickening realization settle in my stomach. "You mean we need to go public? Expose everything?" Harper met my gaze. "Exactly. We hit them with everything we've got, but we do it in a way they can't stop. Once it's out there, they can't undo it. The bigger the splash, the less likely they can contain it." I rubbed my face, trying to push through the fog of uncertainty. "But if we expose everything, they'll know who we are. They'll know who I am." I glanced at Claire. "They'll come for her too." Harper's eyes softened for a moment. "It's a risk we have to take, but if we move fast, we can minimize it. Get it out before they can track it, before they realize they're exposed." I looked at Victor, then back at Claire. My daughter was stronger than I'd ever realized, but I still couldn't shake the feeling that I was dragging her into a world she wasn't ready for. "We move now," I said, the decision settling within me like a stone. "We don't wait. We get the truth out there, and we make sure they know we're not afraid anymore." Victor nodded, already reaching for his jacket. "Then let's get to work." The night was our ally. The city was quieter than it had been earlier, the streets dim and deserted. We didn't have the luxury of daylight anymore. Every step we took felt like it was one step closer to a trap, but at this point, we didn't have a choice. Mara had come through. She'd already made arrangements with some key media outlets, and I'd given her access to the most damning files. The evidence. Wasn't just going to shake the foundations of the syndicate, it would topple them. But it had to be done the right way, publicly. And the longer we waited, the more dangerous it would get. We arrived at the meeting place, an old warehouse on the outskirts of the city. It was dark, the windows blacked out. Inside, Mara's team had already set up everything, including a secure internet connection and the means to broadcast our findings live.